BodyBags, where horror lies.
Hey guys, Rob from Georgia here with you, aka VHS82 apostrophe here at BodyBags. I'm your regular Wednesday evening host. It is August, the first week. It is random week, but looking out ahead just a little bit, it is my month. It's my theme at the end, and second weekend we're doing in a year, so it's 1982. Films from that year ought to be fun. And at the end of the month, my theme is college horror volume 2. So horror films rooted in things taking place or around university settings. And for my part, for 82 week, looking very forward to opening this up and getting into some Slumber Party Massacre. And then at the end, this is the film this is what drove me to select this theme for this month. I've always wanted to do this. It's never been done on BodyBags. And I finally got a copy, and that is, of course, Splatter You. I got a lot of memories about this as a kid, and so I'm looking very, very, very forward to getting into those two for August. But here it is, the first week. It is random, and so I decided to look at a film from John Carpenter. It's never been done on BodyBags, and it's a 2010 film. It doesn't come without its level of disinterest, we'll call it. I don't know if there's a level of hate, but it's definitely just disinterest. And I've always kind of liked this movie, but I haven't watched it in a while, so I revisited it last night, and of course, knowing the layout of the film, and I thought to myself, how on earth do you review something like this? And so I thought I would take the spoiler route, just in the chance that, you know, whether you're talking about latter Argento films or even Fulci films, Carpenter films, some of their latter work, just because of people's talk, get ignored. And I would imagine The Ward from 2010 is a film that probably has been ignored and needs a first-time watch, especially if you're a Carpenter fan. Look, I've been guilty of this stuff, mostly with the Argento filmography in the latter years, but I'm coming around and realizing there are good things. Now, his Ward is the first full-length feature film since Ghost of Mars. He did 2 shorts for Masters of Horror. I want to say they were Cigarette Burns and Pro-Life. But this is his big return. And a couple things, I think a couple things happen with this film. Number one, he doesn't do the score, so there's no John Carpenter score. So there's one check against it. And the other is this is his first feature not shot in Panavision, going back to the Dark Star days. Now, that was his college thesis, so obviously he wasn't going to be able to shoot that in Panavision. But so how it shot, the cinematographer, how it shot, the lack of a noticeable John Carpenter score, how it looks aesthetically, how it's paced, maybe that's part of the real reason why, you know, a lot of people just shrug their shoulders and walk the other way. But I don't know. I really like this. And last night when I watched it down here in the pitch black on my 55 inch here, I know that's not the biggest TV out there, but it looks pretty good in the pitch black down here. I don't know. I enjoyed this, and I had already enjoyed it. I have my favorite scenes in here, but I probably enjoyed this as much as I have ever enjoyed this film. So, non-spoiler. I wonder if I should just... Yeah, let me just read the back of the box real quick here. Welcome to North Bend Psychiatric Hospital, an isolation ward for disturbed women that holds a terrifying secret. Kristen, played by Amber Heard, a beautiful but volatile young woman, finds herself bruised, cut, drugged, held against her will at the sinister asylum, trying to gain control of her memory and figure out how she got there. Kristen discovers that a savage, ghostly figure roams the halls at night. One by one, the other patients begin to disappear. To survive, Kristen must discover the horrifying truth of the ward. Legendary director John Carpenter, the mastermind behind Halloween, The Thing, and Escape from New York, is back in this suspenseful psychological shocker. And that sums it up pretty good. Kristen, you kind of get a little bit of an intro at the beginning that sort of gives reason why she's been brought to the ward. And initially we're given a sense that there is a real question of even who she is, where she's really, what's happened to her. And so it's a discovery of the true nature of what she's been through, led by the psychiatrist played by none other than Jared Harris, who plays Dr. Gerald Stringer. Now, you've got a number of girls. It's sort of like a, what do you call it? The word, I hear Kurt Russell's voice saying it in my head. It's a, the word. Well, no one person stands out front. This is, God, that word, it just escapes me. I think y'all know what I mean. This is sort of a nice balance between these girls. I mentioned Amber Heard, but we also have Mamie Gummer, Danielle Panabaker, Laura-Leigh, Lyndsey Fonseca, and Sali Sayler, and of course Mika Boorem. These are the main girls. Kristen, who's new to this hospital, Emily, Sarah, Zoe, Iris, Tammy, and then of course you've got the mystery of one Alice. And so work by K&B minus Kurtzman. You do have Nicotero and Berger on the effects, or at least some of which been assigned to them, and some of which are pretty good. There's a few sequences that are pretty good in terms of the effects. Let's see. So what can you say? I dig it, man. I really dig The Ward. I think it's a movie that needs to be seen. Really not much more I really want to say. There's one sequence in particular I can say without spoiling anything. The girls in question that we get now, they're isolated in a special part of the ward, and so that's outside of a few moments in the film, you're pretty much quarantined, for the lack of a better word, to this part of the hospital. And there's this scene where, and they have, they're in there, but they have more privileges than you would assume they would in a place like this. And so they're just having downtime, rec time, and they play. Now, this is a late, I want to say early 60s time period film. There's a piece of it that's anchored in the 50s. But then I think much of the film in question is the early 60s, something like that. And so it's a bit of a period piece. And so I think she puts on a, I want to say it was a 45. I haven't seen a 45 since I was a kid. She puts on a 45, and I think it's Run Baby Run. I can't think of the artist from back in the day though. And so the girls basically just in their 60s era jam out session, and it's, to me, actually one of my favorite sequences in the entire film. I just love how the girls just sort of get on, in terms of just how they take the scene. I don't know. And then it's sort of cut short because of a minor temporary power outage, and so it sort of crashingly comes to a halt. But it's I thought it was choreographed pretty well, and it's actually one of my favorite scenes in the movie. Suspense, the gore. There's not a lot of gore in here. There's a few set pieces that do get pretty heightened. But this is one of those movies where, especially if you've never seen it before, you really do jack up your own atmosphere, man. Turn the lights up, make it pitch black. Hopefully you got a pretty decent sized TV, and just let yourself get immersed and put everything else aside, especially things you might have heard about the movie, and just and try to enjoy it. Just enjoy it. And then for me, actually, this film becomes more enjoyable on repeat viewings. There's something about the scope of the film and how it's ultimately laid out that allows for repeat viewings that actually make it. Now, some might take the opposite side of that and say, no, there's not, no reason to go revisit it once you've traveled through it. But for me, it's not that. I have enjoyed my repeated, and there have been many. It's been a long time since I have visited this, and there's just a couple of pictures down there below. The sequences with the ghost are pretty good. There's a shower scene that's pretty good. Generally speaking, I wish I would have wrote the name down of the nurse. The girl that plays the head nurse that looks after the girls, she reminds me of a lot of the head nurse in the sanitarium that you see in the scene in Stage Fright. I don't think it's the same girl, but I meant to look. God damn. But she reminds me a lot about her. The way she looks, man. There's times when the nurse will have this look on her face where her eyes have like seemingly started to go up a little bit, and she just has this sternness, man, this quality. It's interesting. And let me just say, there's more than one transformation that occurs throughout this film. It's, I think it's one of those films that does lend itself to thought afterwards. And there is a commentary track on there. If you just get the DVD with Carpenter and Jared Harris, I've heard the whole thing, but last night I just went back from one point of the film to the end and re-listened to some of their thoughts, hoping to kind of dig down a little deeper. And it's not the greatest commentary track, but it's not bad. It's not bad. So anyways, I don't know. I really don't want to ruin this film. If there's some Carpenter fans out there that have purposely stayed away from this just because of all the negativity you might have heard about it, I'm telling you, it's worth a watch. And for the reasons I cited, not shot in Panavision, and John doesn't do the score, and it may seem, in terms of the cinematography, it just may not feel like a John Carpenter film. Those aren't reasons to ignore it. It's the tail end of his filmography. Rumors abound right now that he may get into the seat one last time for a Thing sequel. We can only cross our fingers and hope that maybe that sees the light of day. Of course, I know a lot of hardcore Thing fans are sort of, I don't know if we want this, man. I mean, it could be the greatest follow-up sequel in recent memory, and then we know the other side of that coin. So anyways, The Ward from John Carpenter. It's a movie that I think really does deserve, and sorry for not spoiling it. I could have spent 20 minutes talking about it, but I'd rather not. I'd rather, if you haven't seen it or haven't watched it in a long time, go back and revisit it. Anyways, next week, Slumber Party Massacre. Looking forward to that. An 82-week all films from 1982. As always, we end these things off with Go Bills.
This is not a dream. Not a dream.
We might be useful to you.